Hello, welcome back. It's week 45 on Out on That Line, and the haters are furious, but we are still alive. I'm here with my co-host Alex. I'm Geoff. Alex, how you doing this week?
Geoff, I'm like cheap toilet paper. I don't take crap off nobody.
Oh, what an introduction.
Goddamn haters. They said we wouldn't last this long, but look at us now.
Yeah. Well, we've got a pretty good episode coming up for y'all. Y'all, I'm really a Texan now.
Wow.
Yeah, that came out like without any hesitation. Damn.
Natural.
Yeah, that was, I guess it started with Friday Night Lights and just, 5 years in Austin and here we are.
Well, certainly worse things that could happen. At least you didn't spend as much time as I did in Boston and start to develop that horrible verbal tick of an accent.
Ooh. Yeah. Yeah, that's nice to hear like every couple years when I go back there and I get to hear it for a while, but I'm always good when I leave.
But then when you say quada one time and you're like, oh my God, I need to leave this city.
Yeah, that's how you know.
Yeah.
You're not just joking around saying "Pak the Ka and Havid Yad" anymore. When it bleeds into your actual speech, it's time to leave.
When you find yourself wearing a reflective vest and drinking Dunkin' Donuts and saying "fuck" in every other fucking word, time to go. Time
Say hi to your mother for me. Oh, well, we have a couple of listener submissions here this week. We have one from cousin of the pod, Patrick. We have Dirty Honey's album, Dirty Honey. And we also have one from friend of the pod, Brandon. And it is Sudan Archives, the album Athena. So we're going to talk about those. But I heard there's an idea for a segment to start out the show. So I'm going to give the floor to you, sir.
Well, inspiration hits at the weirdest times, and I was watching a lot of golf YouTube content with Tanner, and I was seeing a lot of golfer names that were kind of popping me. I didn't know about them before, and I'm like, well, that's very amusing. So I want to play a game with you because you're a golf fan, and you probably might get all these. I don't know. Might be a shitty segment for all I know. But I want to play golfer or musician.
Okay.
So I'm going to read some names, and you tell me what you think it is.
All right. Let's do it.
We'll start slow and we'll work our way up. Lee Trevino.
Golfer.
All right, pretty much.
I've met him, actually. He stayed at the resort I worked at.
No fucking way.
Yeah. He was staying in the Crenshaw suite, which is the best one we have. And he came down to the front desk when I was working there. And he was like, my wife took my wallet to go shopping. I realized I don't have my room key. I think I have my ID. And I was like, Mr. Trevino, my grandfather would kill me if I didn't know who you were. Here's your room key.
Sir, would you like to come stay at my house? Can I make you dinner?
Yeah. He was also in Happy Gilmore.
Was he?
Yeah. He was the one every time that when Chubbs died, he'd look up and shake his head. That was Lee Trevino.
No shit. See, me not big golf guy. No idea.
Yep.
Wow. What an education I've been getting the last couple days.
Off to a hot start.
All right. Pinot Paladino.
Musician.
Okay. Yep. Session bassist.
Yep.
Percy Boomer.
Oh, shit. I'm going to say musician. I don't know.
He is a golfer who missed the 1950 Open Championship by a single stroke.
Oh, how did I not remember that? It was probably on repeat. My grandfather had all those on VHS tapes.
I'm just saying your dad would have got that.
Probably.
He would have insulted me for asking him such low-hanging fruit, and then he would have given more biographical detail.
That's probably true.
That's Bazooka.
That's probably very.
That's Bazooka Bob, baby. You bring him to trivia. Everyone else is pretty fucked.
Arrogance off the charts when it comes to trivia with my dad.
Fucking strutting and cutting. All right, this next one is probably another gimme. Richie Sambora.
I mean, Bon Jovi, baby.
Okay. When you didn't know Tico Torres, I was like, I've got a 50-50 shot of sneaking in another Bon Jovi person.
I mean, there's two Bon Jovi people. It's John Bon Jovi and Richie Sambora, and those are the two guys.
Correct.
I'm pretty sure Richie Sambora was up to his nuts in Heather Locklear's guts for a while.
And they produced just a lovely daughter.
Oh.
And she's quite stunning.
Okay. Well, I mean, naturally.
That's as gentlemanly as I can be about the subject. Moving on. Ian Baker Finch.
Golfer.
Did you know that, or are you guessing?
Yeah,
okay.
I knew that. He's a commentator.
Oh,
on
okay.
On a lot of the stuff. And I think he won the U.S. Open one time. Maybe he won the Masters.
91, he won the Open Championship, whatever that means.
Yeah, the British Open.
Okay.
For us uncouth Americans, it's the British Open.
For we Yankee tarts. Okay, this next one is a fella by the name of Vinny Colaiuta.
Musician.
Session drummer for Sting, Joni Mitchell, and Frank Zappa.
Oh, there it is. There it is, folks. You need to have like a little soundbite that you pop in whenever like a little guitar riff he did or something like that.
Yeah, it's just my guitar wants to kill your mama. It just gets piped in whenever I do that.
Yeah. And I also heard on Skimbo Lounge, you guys talking about a soundboard.
Yeah.
That's an idea that's been bouncing around my brain, avoiding my two brain cells like a little BB for a few weeks now.
It's let's just say I've listened to other podcasts that do it, and we will almost certainly abuse the privilege, but I think it just elevates the quality so much when you can pipe in a fart or the Curb Your Enthusiasm theme song.
Yes, absolutely.
So, keeping our options open.
Yeah, a little Zappa bell, you know.
Yeah, the Zappa zap, just like an electrical current or something. Yeah.
Zip. Yeah.
The magic word. Moving on, we have Masashi Jumbo Ozaki.
I'm going to say golfer. I don't know.
He is the golf idol in Japan, correct? He's like the one that the Japanese hold in the highest esteem.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Well, they just had Hideki Matsuyama just won the Masters last year, so.
And I did watch that.
Yeah.
That was very exciting.
I'm guessing he's up there now, too.
Tommy Tedesco.
Musician.
Part of the Wrecking Crew, the legendary session gentleman. Tony Penna.
Golfer.
Designed clubs and gear and has 4 patents on 4 sets of clubs.
Mm-hmm.
Did you know that or did you just guess?
I knew that.
Okay. See, as a non-golfer, I can't tell what are like layups and what are super obscure.
Well, the thing is, too, I worked at a golf resort. So not only did I grow up playing the game and watching it all the time, I worked at a golf resort as well and was very involved with the golf side of things on that.
Well, you've got me at a bit of a disadvantage. If you'd like me to teach you about making, and quote, potions out of household chemicals, I can do that. That's what I did as a child.
Well, I nearly mixed bleach and Windex today, so that was a close call.
Wow. Someone's watching out for you.
Yeah. Could have been the end of me.
Yikes. I have no one lined up to take over if you're gone, so.
I mean, I'm sure you could find some. One of my dogs would do it.
Sure.
I'm sure.
I'll just slot Marla and I'll be like, fuck it. You know as much about Geoff as I do. It's natural that we take this over.
Yeah.
All right, my final guy on here, Bernard Purdy.
I don't know the name. I don't know it. So I'm going to say golfer, but I don't know.
All right. I'm actually, if you had to get one wrong, I'm really glad it was this. I love Bernard Purdy. Legendary session drummer, worked with my guy Steely Dan, worked with Aretha Franklin. He is the inventor of the Purdy Shuffle, which is triplets against like a halftime backbeat. I can't like really do it justice, but it's like you're like alternating open and close hi-hat, and it's just skip it to puppet, skip it to puppet, skip it to puppet. It's like a really unique, influential shuffle. He has been on 4,000 albums. He is the most recorded drummer of all time. And as he says, no one will probably ever break that record because this is just not what they do anymore. So he's a legendary session drummer.
Shit. Okay.
And a sweet old man.
Yeah, I'd never heard that name. I'm sure I've heard a zillion of the things he's drummed on, but just never knew that was him.
Oh, yeah. Hell yeah. So that was Golfer or Rocker inaugural edition.
That was actually much better. Not that I don't have faith in you. That was much better than I thought it was going to be.
What did you think it was going to be?
I thought I was going to nail them all.
Oh,
you know, but you picked some deep cuts.
You did. You got, you only missed Percy Boomer and Bernard Purdy, right?
I think so.
Yeah, you got,
we had, 7 of them?
I had 10. You got an 80%.
10?
You pass.
Oh, well, that's better than my GPA was in college.
Well, here we go. Redemption tour.
Yeah, we're on the way up, baby.
All right. Well, thanks for
Dad
playing.
can finally be proud. Yeah, thanks for having that one, because I had nothing in the chamber for the opening segment. So when you said you had something to go on, I was like, that's my co-host.
Fuck yeah.
Words and music, baby. Words and music.
Beautiful. Beautiful. That's what we should have called this.
Yeah. Oh man, we should. You know what? I'm gonna try to come up with one of those for you, but I got to come up with something that's relevant for you, because that was very relevant for me. So I'll come up with something for that.
Yeah, sweet. That sounds good.
All right. Well, which we didn't really discuss this. Usually we talk about which order we're going to do things in. Is there a particular order that you'd like to discuss the albums in this week?
No, not necessarily. I have Sudan Archives first in my notes, but I don't care. Whatever you want to do.
Let's do it. That's as much of a decision as I needed here.
Okay.
So once again, thank you, Brandon. Thank you very much for the suggestion here on Sudan Archives. I'm also going to say, friend of the pod, Validia, my future sister-in-law, this is an album that you're really going to like, I'm pretty sure. So you go ahead and listen to this one. I know you said she actually said she listens to Margot Price now.
No shit.
Of the episode that we did.
No shit. Look at that.
Yeah.
Changing lives.
So, we're influencing at least our small corners of the world right now. Just going to spread like a disease.
She also into Caliucci's. Did you tell me that a while ago?
Yes, very.
So she'll probably co-sign a Caliucci's episode.
I would assume, yeah.
Okay, good. My support grows.
Yeah, maybe we can have her recommend a particular Caliucci's album.
Whatever she wants. She just released an all Spanish album. I forget what it's called. Okay. That would be an interesting challenge for us, because my Spanish is dusty rusty from the high school days.
You know, for having a fiance whose first language is Spanish, I speak very little of it.
There he is. That's my guy.
Very little.
Oh.
Yeah, so we could find one. I'll talk to her about that. Also, I guess before we get further here, I did listen to another album, the Vince Staples new album.
Ooh, I completely forgot about that.
Yeah, and we should certainly do that on a future episode.
Sweet.
Certainly, because it was good.
Nice. All right, sick. I'll check it out.
Yeah. Okay, well, back to our scheduled programming here. Athena by Sudan Archives. Now, I had never heard of this artist at all, not once in my life. Apparently is a violinist, was kind of how she got her start. You know, it seems like kind of like, I don't know about a prodigy, but it seems very prolific on the violin, and then just kind of branched out into other instruments and kind of other genres and things like that. But the way she weaves the violin into this album is very interesting. You can't always tell it's a violin, but I like that. You know, I think you can have your very classical, traditional violin music, and that always sounds good. Like, the violin is an instrument that I've never really understood how people get it to sound good, because I've tried it several times and it sounds like I'm trying to choke a duck or something like that. You know, it's like, it's not a good noise that comes out of it when I play it. But the people that are good at it, it's always so cool to hear, because so few people are very good at it. It's a very niche instrument. And I think to have somebody that's that classically trained in it, and then also can bring in these kind of world music and R&B vibes and all these other influences, it was a very cool experience to listen to this album.
Yeah, and that's what's cool about her violin playing, is it's got an extremely modern sensibility. It's not like she's layering super classical violin on top of like Quiet Storm or R&B or something like that. Mm-hmm. It's like the violin almost takes on like the quality of another voice, which I think is really cool. And if we just want to jump into the songs and start with Confessions, which was one of my picks, this dovetails really nicely with some of the details of her personal life. Did you look anything up on her?
I did not look anything up on her. I looked up Dirty Honey quite a bit, but I wanted to, I don't know. I feel like with someone as kind of unknown as Sudan Archives, I'm always a little skeptical about the information that's going to be out there, but I assumed you were going to, and maybe not look up Dirty Honey, so I took on looking up Dirty Honey.
Jeff, that's exactly correct. I had a sneaking suspicion we were going to gravitate towards opposite albums. Yeah. This one's a little more up my alley than Dirty Honey. But she's got an interesting story, and this is straight from her mouth. She was, when she was like a teenager, she and her twin sister, their stepdad was in the music business, and he wanted them to be a pop duo called N2. And Sudan Archive's real name, by the way, Brittany Denise Parks. So we'll call her Brittany. She just fucking hated what they were doing. She hated the lack of control she had. She hated the politics of the music industry. She just hated what they were making. Like, everything about it sucked. She was like sneaking out after sessions and getting stoned and coming home wasted, and eventually got kicked out of her house, and the whole thing fell apart. So she moved to LA and ended up studying music and finally decided to start making her own stuff. And Confessions is like the retelling of that story, but also the mission statement for the album, because this whole thing is about you have to go your own way. And this song is a perfect example of incorporating that violin as a playful second voice, and it like helps tell the story in vivid detail. And just to read the lyrics to you: I'm too unique to kneel. I washed away my fears and trust in my own ears, my own regret revealed. So it's her talking about the compromises she made to make music with N2, and then deciding that wasn't for her, and having to drum up the courage to tell her stepdad and her sister, I'm not doing this. And they got really fucking hurt by it, but she obviously had to go her own way.
And I wonder, did it say anything about whether her sister has reached any sort of success?
Nothing about the sister. I guess the stepdad had, like, she mentioned he's like really sick, so like that weighed on her conscience a lot and like breaking from him. But not a lot about the sister.
Okay, I wonder how that went, because I feel like that's not only are they sisters, but when you have, you know, something that you do with them and then you break that off, you know, what I assume is kind of suddenly in not a great way. You know, it's probably better for Brittany to have done that, but, you know, at the same time, she did have to hurt somebody in order to do that. So I wonder how that relationship is going. It may be something they never publicly talk about. Who knows? But I wonder also if her sister was as talented as she is, if she's going to be capable of doing something like this, or if she tried to stick with the kind of pop music factory kind of style that it sounded like her stepdad was trying to get her into.
Yeah, I'll have to look it up. My concern would be the creepy twin thing. You betrayed your twin. She can like activate your brain and make you walk into traffic or something. You got to watch that shit, man. That's exactly how it works. You can look that up.
Well, good thing I don't have a twin.
Yeah, goddamn right.
That sounds dangerous. The thing that struck me in this one is this was the song where I kind of like the first part of the album was great to listen to, but this was a song where I was like, she writes some very good lyrics.
Yeah.
The pre-chorus where she says, there is a place that I call home, but it's not where I am welcome. And if I saw all the angels, why is my presence so painful? And it's that kind of self-reflection of like the damage that she's caused, but also, you know, kind of like why it's still my home. Like, why can't you just like trust in my decisions and know that I did what's best for me, you know, and relying on that kind of unconditional love that you're supposed to get from your loved ones, and, you know, kind of realizing that maybe she's not getting that and not understanding why. And she's like, I'm doing what makes me happy. Like, why can't you be happy for me as well? And I think a lot of folks have experienced that, where you don't quite meet your parents' expectations. You don't quite meet your family's expectations, you know, and you don't do exactly what they think you should do, but you're happy. And you think that's what should matter, but it ends up being that does matter, sure, but their expectations also mattered to them, and you didn't meet them, and so there's that always going to be that little bit of disappointment there until you have some major reconciliation and some kind of rebuilding of those bridges.
Yeah, and you know what though? Good for her for breaking the cycle, because we inherit our life map from our parents, and they got it from their parents. So if she's recognizing that you have to let autonomy and happiness come first, that's great. If she ever chooses to have kids, she'll hopefully pass that philosophy on. I respect the hell out of people that do that. Good for her. That was the same thing as like Tao Win from Tao and the Get Down, Stay Down.
Mm-hmm.
Just like generational trauma and then flipping it and doing something different.
Yeah. I think with that is also kind of an interesting difference, though, too, because I think Tao's mom was much more supportive of Tao just doing what makes them happy, and just doing what would, benefit them, and not necessarily adhering to what she had to deal with or anything like that. Instead, looking at her daughter and saying, you need to, be yourself, and understanding that maybe she had some expectations, but the main one, the number one, the headliner expectation was be happy, be successful, be yourself. And I think that's an important thing. As long as you put that number one with the people that you love, is that you want them to be happy, you're never going to go wrong. You're never going to be able to, you're never going to have to really repair those relationships, because you're not holding them accountable for expectations that they never wanted for themselves necessarily. And I think that's a good kind of difference between a truly fully healthy relationship and one that maybe needs a little work.
Yeah, no, I agree. Do you want to move on?
Sure. It was another pick by you, Down on Me.
Now look, I know what you're all thinking.
You know what I'm going to say.
I know what you're all thinking with your fucking ringleader idol Geoff over here feeding you lies. I didn't pick the song because it's a filthy cunnilingus song. Now, to be clear, she does have a lyric about it in the song, but it's not what the whole song is about. So I am not on trial here.
I think your subconscious is doing some of the thinking for you, my friend, because it's not as if this is a first time thing here. This is not a new experience. We're 45 episodes in. We've got plenty on the tape to speak to your track record with the Bonin songs.
Can somebody do a supercut of every time I've mentioned asses or songs about sex? Butt, ass, big fat dumper, just like... Oh, I suck. I'm a bad person. Anyway.
I wouldn't go that far.
Maybe we can all be down on me for being a bad person, but the song...
Well, not like this.
not this time. There's a really interesting story behind this one, and that, I think, is the tale of two albums. I have more things to say about Dirty Honey musically, even though I like what Sudan Archives did musically more, I think. And the lyrics and the stories, I think, are more interesting. I'm not explaining this well. If you just look at Sudan Archives, I'm overcomplicating it. I think the music is really interesting. I think the lyrics and the stories are more interesting than the music. Dirty Honey, I think the music is more interesting than the lyrics by a country mile. And there are some things that popped up in that album that I wanted more of that were just glimpses. So between these two albums, I've gravitated, I think, the most towards the stories told in these Sudan Archive songs. And the story of Down on Me is very interesting. She met this guy online, and he was also black, and he told her, you're cool, but I don't date black women. And she pressed him. She's like, what the fuck is up with that? He's like, oh, you guys are combative and high maintenance, and I just don't want to deal with it. And she, like, took that as a personal challenge by her own admission. She's like, he was an interesting guy, and he fed me this, and I wanted to think it was funny, and then I got really fucking offended, and I made it my mission not to fuck with him, but to stick with him and just kind of, like, anthropologically study this guy and study his mentality. And as she says, I was on some praying mantis shit at the time.
It does sound like that in the song.
Oh, big time. Yeah. Big time chew you up, spit you out energy. And it sounds like the sex was really good, but there was no emotional connection. It was more like a curiosity. It was like My Fair Lady. And she's just kind of keeping him around as an experiment, not to be cruel.
Yeah.
But she's just like, can't reconcile this perspective that he has with who he seems to be.
I think because that, I think that's a questionable choice. I'm never going to try to speak to the experience of a black person and try to tell them what to do. I think it is a little bit problematic whenever you lump everybody that's part of one group as one thing, and I think that's a problem that's popped up many, many, many times over the course of human history, mostly from white people. But it's, I think it's something that she probably saw it as like a challenge, like, oh, you're going to say that? Well, I'm going to show you what you're missing. And I think it was the kind of thing where she's like, you're going to put me in a box. You're going to tell me that I'm just like everybody else. She's like, I'm going to show you that I'm not. And, then I'm going to be done with you. And I think that whole praying mantis stuff, like the, obviously, hopefully it's only symbolic that she cut his head off. Hopefully she didn't do that in real life, or maybe next album's going to be from prison. We're going to get like live from Folsom from Sudan archives. But, I think emotionally and kind of metaphorically, I suppose she cut his head off because, he probably had all these expectations about what she was going to be. And people's expectations come from their experiences, so they rely on those. They think those are things that are truths, well, they might just be, something that you've kind of conjured up in your head as, given your experiences. And so when she's kind of ripping this thing that he considered a truth away from him, I think there's a definite satisfaction in that from her, and I think that's something that, he might be sitting there with his head spinning, like, what have I been doing all these years? Like, just totally writing off this entire group of people.
That, or it completely affirmed for him how he felt before. You know what I mean? If it ended poorly,
yeah,
I could see his takeaway being, I was right. No, Seymour, it's the children who are wrong.
That could be. She could very well just have reaffirmed his entire life view on this subject.
Completely unintentionally, because he sounds like he's interesting, but he might be kind of thick, like, and not like sexy thick, like thick in the head. And she says that she was starting to feel fetishized because he doesn't date black women, but now he is, and he's treating it like this, like, magical, like, oh, I'm discovering so much. And she's like, well, that doesn't make me feel like a person. That makes me feel like I'm, being fucking studied in a lab, and that's not a great feeling, even though she was doing the same thing to him. She was sticking around to see where that went. So it's interesting. It's a song that's predicated on a lot of, like, irony and winking nods and a lot of sexual imagery as well. It wouldn't be a me pick if there weren't references to smush.
And it seems to be consistently the songs that you pick. You know what I should do? We should start doing this, like, what was it called? The Newlywed Game, where it's like every episode I write down before you send me the songs that you picked, I should write down which ones I think you're going to pick, and every episode we should see if I'm right.
Just keep a running tally.
Yeah. And I'll have it on a piece of paper so I can hold it up to you, and you'll know that I've written it down previously.
No, go, Geoff, that's exactly correct. If it's got juicy ass, or even as, like, ass with 2 Z's in it, you can guarantee I'm picking it.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's usually a good song too. Like, jokes aside about you always picking the boning songs, like Down on Me is a great song.
Yeah,
that's
thanks,
a really
Geoff.
good song.
Thank you.
That's a really good song. And not that you ever pick bad ones just because they have that in it. It just always seems to be, the Venn diagram on these songs. It's always just a circle.
I connect with the passion that the artists are putting out there. I
suppose that's what they're doing it for.
Yeah, you can't make a song like Thought Shit and have me just sit there and read the fucking Times while I listen to it and drink tea. Putting myself in the space.
I suppose we should have some appreciation for someone like Sudan Archives, because I think it's easier to wax a little more philosophical on Down on Me than it is about Thought Shit.
Yeah, it's a little, if you want to say more tasteful, I don't think Thought Shit's in bad taste, but perhaps this one would slide past the censors a little easier.
I guess what we can judge it on is, because who are we to judge, really? But the fact that we can read every one of the lyrics out loud and probably not disappoint any of our parents by doing so on the podcast, versus reading all of the lyrics from Thought Shit and knowing that my dad would swiftly text message me, be like, you need to stop doing that podcast right now.
You are becoming unemployable by the second.
Yeah. What if the furniture store found out what you were saying? They'd never let you sell another couch.
Oh, shit.
Well, what do you say we move on to Iceland Moss?
Yeah, that was your pick.
I picked this one mostly because at first the song really struck me as like, I think I just like this song the most because it's got I don't know, it's got a variety of different influences in it. It kind of changes, kind of sonically throughout, like towards the end of the song as well. So I felt like, to me, it was the most interesting one sonically on the album. But then I read through the lyrics and, the way she uses the metaphor, you think I'm soft like Iceland moss. I was like, well, what the hell is Iceland moss? All I've heard of is regular moss. And apparently it's used for treating irritation of the mouth and throat, loss of appetite, the common cold, dry cough, bronchitis, indigestion, fevers, lung disease, kidney and bladder complaints, and the tendency towards infection. So it's a medicinal plant. It has medicinal uses. So what I kind of got to thinking about this one was she's getting called soft like Iceland moss, but Iceland moss is not something to be insulted by, so it's like somebody picking something out about her that they think is a bad thing. And she's saying, well, no, it's not a bad thing, and I think that to me was kind of interesting. It's like, you're saying I'm like this and you're thinking that I'm going to be upset by that, but I am like that and I'm not upset by that. So it's, I feel like there's this level of defiance in all of her songs, but not in a way that's like standoffish. Mm-hmm. It's like she's just very confident in who she is and what she believes. And I really respect that. I like that a lot. And I think it shows through in a lot of these songs, and especially in this one.
Yeah, in this one, it's just somebody underestimating her strength and her independence. And Iceland moss apparently is like the softest moss ever, in addition to like a magical medicine plant. I did not know that part. Mm-hmm. But it's like the softest ever. So it's like, okay, well, you think I'm soft. Guess what? I am so much more than that. And it's cool because the song starts off pretty standard, I would say. And then as it picks up steam, like the violin is there because it's her signature, but it's not so forward in the mix. And instead, this is like a really aggressive, quiet storm. It reminded me more of Sade than anything else. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. I just really liked it.
I got big time Beyonce Lemonade vibes. The Lemonade album. Mm-hmm. I got big time Beyonce vibes from this one. There was enough differences where, I think there was a lot more like the world music and less of the kind of like really kind of angry, simmering R&B that Beyonce had, like to compared to this album. But the way that they kind of bring all these different influences together, and you're like, does this time signature really work? Do these lyrics really work? But it all seems to, the parts themselves may not be the best thing ever, but when they come together for that sum, it becomes something great. And, I think this song in particular for me, when she gets into that kind of like chanting at the end, you think I'm soft like Iceland moss, like, and it's just that everything else kind of drops out. It's like, then it becomes that defiance. Then it becomes like, instead of just trying to work this out in her head, like, am I really soft? Like, is this really a bad thing? It's like, no, it's not a bad thing. Like, I am soft like that, but it doesn't mean that I'm weak, and I think I really enjoy it when artists do that, when they take something that's supposed to be a negative and they really tell you that, like, you think it's a negative, but no, it's really a positive thing, to be emotional and to be spiritual and to, get hurt by things that hurt you. You know what I mean? It's not, you're not a stronger person. You just don't let things in. You can't ever deal with something if you don't get hurt by it. And I think with each of these things, she grows as a person. Each of these times she gets hurt because people think she's soft. She's like, well, I might be soft, but I'm learning, and I'm becoming better and I'm becoming stronger with every one of these things. And I don't know, I really like that. And the progression through this whole album, I don't think there's really much of a story or theme overall with the whole thing. I think it's just like these little snippets, these little vignettes of different emotions that she has, colored by the experiences that she's had. And I really enjoyed it. I think I don't have a lot to say because I can't speak to her life experience really, but it's really interesting to me as I relate it to myself, that she's able to do that and kind of straddle all these lines and be 100% of everything that she's claiming to be.
Mm-hmm. So I put it to you with this next one. We can talk about my other pick, or no, was this your other pick?
Limitless?
Yeah,
this
Limitless.
Was my other pick, yeah.
Okay, that was your other pick. Okay. Just because I'm looking at the time. So if we wanted to punt, I can save my Limitless stuff, or if you really want to talk about it, I have stuff to talk about too. So
I really Iceland Moss was the big one for me on this one. So like I'm not gonna be too upset if we don't talk about Limitless. I just thought Limitless was a banger of a song. Really, that's all I really had to say about it.
I co-sign that. It's a very straightforward pop song. She herself calls it corny. And I'm like, I don't think it's that corny. I think it's the most mainstream thing you did, but whatever. And it's a familiar message, like, girl, you got to leave that douchebag. But it's another one of those songs. Yeah, like you said, it's a fucking banger. It's extremely accessible.
Yeah, and it was nice because there's a lot of really lo-fi songs on this one. It was nice to have one that was had a little more to it, a little more substance to it. It was nice. Just showed what she's capable of. She's got a lot of different bullets in the chamber.
Abso-fucking-lutely.
Yeah, it was good. Well, I will say for this album, absolutely stream it. I really enjoyed listening through to this one. I don't think it was the most groundbreaking, unbelievable, incredible album I've ever heard in my life or anything like that, but it was a very, very good listen. I don't think anybody's going to be disappointed, and it very well might end up being somebody's favorite. I think it is good enough for that. And I don't know. I really just enjoyed it. Stream it.
Yeah, I'm going to give it a stream it as well. I really enjoyed it, and thank you, Brandon.
Yes, thank you, Brandon. Now moving on to Dirty Honey, requested by cousin of the pod, Patrick, and their album, Dirty Honey. Now, folks, if you haven't heard of Dirty Honey, and I hadn't ever heard of them, they are a band out of California and apparently have been kind of like taking the rock and roll world by storm. Like their first ever national tour, they sold out every date. They've opened for The Who. They've opened for, a laundry list of really big time artists. And at festivals, they tend to have the most people show up to their sets. Like they're just and me having never heard of them is surprising to me. But reading through all of the accolades that they've had, like they hadn't even released an album or they weren't signed or something, but they debuted at #1 on the mainstream rock charts. Like that's impressive, and to me, the biggest thing with this band and listening to this album is, I'm sure you were going to bring up this comparison, but Greta Van Fleet.
Ding, 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 Jeff.
Yeah, where Greta Van Fleet just sounds like they are absolutely ripping off Led Zeppelin and, similar bands to that. It sounds like they are absolutely ripping them off. I never once got that sense from Dirty Honey. I got the sense that they're 100% influenced by AC/DC and Aerosmith and Led Zeppelin and all these like big time classic rock bands. But I never got the sense that they were just like ripping it off. It's like, that's such a big difference for me. Like if you're going to have a band that sounds like they could be from that era, and we have two with Greta Van Fleet and Dirty Honey, I think Dirty Honey is actually a good one.
Yeah. So that's the thing is, it's not even compliment sandwich, I guess. It's just going to be like compliment pancake stack. I'm going to say nice stuff because I didn't hate this to not bury the lead. I did not hate this album. I did not love this album. It is technically excellent. They are all really fucking good at what they do. And there were pockets where I was like, this is becoming like a Guns N' Roses parody a little bit. Like I'm hearing Axl. There were times where I heard Robert Plant, but like not egregiously. And they strike a really good balance, particularly the singer, in like wearing your influences on your sleeve, but not totally aping that sound. Like you love it. And it's cool to you that you sound like your idol, but you also need your own spin. And there were moments where that wobbled a little bit for me, but overall they avoided the Greta Van Fleet trap, which is to just blatantly rip someone off, take all the shit that's recognizable about their music, and then take all of the heart and spirit and interesting shit out of it and just do a bad grade school dress-up cosplay parody of it.
Yeah, and I think it was, so I heard mostly, there is some Led Zeppelin in here, for sure, but the bands that I heard was AC/DC and Aerosmith in this, and I've listened to a lot of both in my life. Like the lead guitars in this one were Joe Perry to a T, but still like, it didn't make me feel like, oh, they just ripped off Joe Perry. It was just like a nice homage to that era of music and how tight and perfect those guitar solos were. Just heavily based in like that blues rock. And if people aren't familiar, Aerosmith wasn't always the band that did Jaded and Pink and Dude Looks Like a Lady. You know, they weren't always that band. They had an album called Get a Grip, and that album fucks, folks. That album absolutely fucks. And they had Toys in the Attic. I mean, they used to be a hard rockin' band, like with some of the best guitar playing that you could ever hear. I mean, Joe Perry is a legend for a reason. And to gain any sort of comparison to him at all, I think is such a huge compliment for the lead guitar player in this band. Like, I really, really enjoyed every bit of this album. You know, I think I like this one more than Sudan Archives because this has always been up my alley. Like, this kind of music, I listened to Boston and Aerosmith all throughout high school. Like, this was always my kind of music. And to hear a new band that has their own spin on it, you know, it's got a little bit more of that harder edge to it. It's a little faster than those bands used to play. It's just like, it was a really enjoyable listen for me.
Yeah, and to get right into one of my picks, the first song, California Dreamin', everything you just said is right there, right off the top. They are locked in, snug as a fucking bug. That, like, musically, tight.
Mm-hmm.
And the thing for me is this kind of mainstream rock has never been especially lyrically complex. And the lyrics are kind of noticeably sparse on this one, which forces you to really key into the music.
Mm-hmm.
And in that sense, this is like pitch perfect. Like, I don't know what, I mean, I don't have the breadth and depth of producing knowledge necessary to be like, well, I would have done this. But, like, as the layman, I don't know what the fuck I would change. Like, musically, this was tight.
Yeah. Yeah, everything was good. I mean, the guitar tone, the drums, the bass, everything. The singer has, like, the perfect voice for this kind of music. I mean, it was just like where you would never expect people like our age, and I think they're actually younger than us, but you would never expect people our age to, like, play music like this and not have it sound like Greta Van Fleet, where it sounds like they're totally ripping it off. Like, it just seems like Dirty Honey and, like, band like the Temperance Movement, you know, it's like you can hear all those influences that they've got, but they've got their own thing going on with it too. Like, they took that stuff, they put it in the recipe, but it's not the whole dish. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, no, absolutely. It's like putting fucking bacon and jalapenos in your macaroni and cheese. It
Yeah.
was great, and now it's something entirely different and equally great.
Yeah.
Not my best metaphor, but I'm very hungry.
Well, if you're talking about mac and cheese, if Mitch ever listens to this, you're going to have a vat of jalapeno bacon mac and cheese show up at your doorstep.
Hell
Well,
yeah.
I thought you might like this.
Oh, I made this for you. Did you wash your hands before you made it, Mitch? No. Cool, thanks.
They're clean.
Yeah, okay. Talk to me 3 summers ago when he gave me food poisoning. Anyway. Dirty bastard.
I'm surprised it's only happened once.
So am I, quite frankly.
Yeah. In fact, I might consider that a victory.
I was holding my breath a little bit out at camp this year. I'm like, ooh, what day is it going to happen to me?
I mean, he was generally unkempt, so I can understand your trepidation.
You understand my fear.
Yeah.
Do you have anything else to say about California Dreamin', or can we scoot to the wire?
We can scoot to the wire, but I will say about California Dreamin', that was a great opener on this one.
It was a really solid opener, for sure. And
Yeah.
not to be a dick, but it goes a little downhill from here for me.
Okay, well, we'll hear about that. But I will say also, when that heavy guitar riff kicks in California Dreamin', was right when I was pulling the starter on the lawnmower. And oh baby, the timing. The universe just smiled down on me. It was like, buddy, you're in for a great 38 minutes or whatever this album length was. Maybe it was like 29 minutes. It was a quick one.
These are both really short, yeah.
Yeah, but it was good. But yeah, The Wire. So this was the one where I was like, okay, this is where they're kind of breaking out of that strictly Aerosmith kind of sound. You know, this is where they're kind of exploring those influences a little bit, because I will say, as much as I like this album, at no point did I think they were doing anything groundbreaking. You know, there was no, they were just remodeling, I think is kind of the word that I would use here. There no new construction here, just improving on the old. The Wire was, you know, it's got those just classic rock and roll lyrics. You know, it's like, I've been walking your wire, baby, for too long. And I'm walking your wire. It won't take too long till I turn and walk away. You know, it's just like, doesn't have any depth whatsoever to it. You know what I mean? Like, this is not like Sudan Archives. This is like lyrically, this is nowhere close. But sometimes I don't want that. Sometimes I just want to have a good time. And this album delivered in spades for me on that.
Well, and I have a similar inclination, which is like sometimes you just want to listen to something that rocks. Sometimes you want to listen to something that's technically excellent. Sometimes you just want to like turn your brain off and just have fun. Totally get all of that. But it is very much a time and a place and an artist thing for me. And these guys are, again, as to borrow Reno's favorite, they're rock solid. They are. They're rock solid musicians for sure. But the problem for me is, and I will offer the caveat, I understand you can't do too much different stuff with music. It's the same thing with film. There is kind of an inherent structure that's necessary for comprehension unless you're going way off the fucking map. So I get that, but structurally, all of these songs are exactly the same. Verse, pre-chorus, chorus. Verse 2, pre-chorus, chorus. Bridge, fucking repeat the chorus 2 times, get the fuck out of there. And that's not necessarily a bad thing, but as soon as I picked up on it, it's where it kind of crystallized for me. I can appreciate technically excellent music, again, in its time and place, but I'm also very attracted to messy, raw, loose, asymmetrical, like within the framework, within the structure, bringing your unique talents to it and give me some pathos, give me some emotion, because if you're going to do really technically excellent music that doesn't break the mold, then I kind of need lyrically and thematically, I need a lot. I need pain, I need intrigue, and The Wire for me is a very standard, like, this is a relationship on the woman's terms, and I'm fed the fuck up. So it didn't offer me anything new or anything really to appreciate, which sounds really harsh. But to end it on a compliment, we can't all be Phoebe Bridgers. We can't all be Prince and speak from that special place inside of us. But I respect the fuck out of what they're able to do with their instruments. That is no small feat.
Yeah. And I really, I didn't, obviously I compared it to Sedan Archives because we're doing the same, they're doing those 2 albums this week. But the band that kept popping up for me that I kind of compare them to that's also kind of like straight up just rock and roll band is Arctic Monkeys. And kind of how they structure their songs. And it's not at all the same. Like the Arctic Monkeys, you can pick out once in a while that they have some influences from like classic rock, but they have more influences from like punk, but they're both rock and roll bands. When I think of those 2 things, like lyrically, thematically, musically, Dirty Honey is 70s, early 80s in spades. I mean, that's just overdriven guitars, lyrics about not much, lyrics about girls and drinking and having the blues, versus like the Arctic Monkeys get into some more in-depth, kind of sad boy kind of lyrics. They get very avant-garde, in some of their music as well. And I think that's a big difference when you look at like, and we're not even going to talk about the Foo Fighters because they're just awful when we talk about like big rock bands these days. Like there's a place for somebody like Dirty Honey when you just want to party. You want to go to the Sunset Strip and you want to party. And there's a place when you wanted like smart music, like the Arctic Monkeys. Those 2 things for me are like completely separate things. When I want to impress somebody with my music knowledge, I'll play somebody like the Arctic Monkeys. When I just want to throw on a record and get everybody drinking, get everybody having a good time, I'll throw on Dirty Honey. They serve 2 completely different purposes. And I totally understand where you're coming from when you're saying that it's not offering you anything new. It doesn't bring anything new to the table. It's just more of that kind of music. I think because I'm such a fan of that kind of music already, that this just fits right in. This just gets added to the list of the things that I enjoy. I think if you're not already part of that, this is not going to be so groundbreaking for you that it's going to all of a sudden make you love this kind of music. If you weren't a fan of it before, this is not good enough to make you a fan of it now, and I think I completely understand where you're coming from with that.
Yeah, and again, like that is all totally fair. And all it is for me is it didn't hit all the way with me, but I will say it again and again and again. It is not bad. And they are extremely talented at the kind of music they're making. So it's not like objectively this is bad. Subjectively, wasn't for me.
Yeah, fair enough. The next one we're going to talk about is Gypsy, because on an album full of throwback rock and roll songs. This is the throwback rock and roll song. I mean, I'm on the run, just living like a gypsy. Heard that line 100 times. Say, boy, what are you running from? I'm on the run. If you know what you're missing, then come and get you some. You know, it's just like, I can just feel what this song would be like seeing it live, and all of the probably middle-aged people, like, and I say that like I'm almost there, but all the middle-aged people that are like still trying to hold on to the dream are going to be like way into Dirty Honey because they're the cool hip new rock band, instead of watching like 97-year-old Mick Jagger turning to dust on stage for the 5th time in a row. You know what I mean? It's like, this is a brand new band, and I can just like feel the energy at this show, and I can feel how many Coors Lights I would drink during this and how many shots of Jim Beam I would slam down the old gullet and just have myself a great time. And like, this song just makes me feel like I need to be at a show like that. You know, it just like has so much energy. I loved it.
Here's the thing. I bet they're great live. I would go see them live. I would have a ton of fucking fun live. This is a great band to see live. I can guarantee that sight unseen. So have to give it up for that. Before I offer more criticism, that comes in 2 parts. This was also, again, where I realized, like, okay, we're kind of riding the same structure. And I'm like, I just noticed, like, it's everything you said. It is gut bucket loud. Rip the fucking knob off. Turn it up to 11, rip the knob off. Nothing slow, nothing tender. Respect. Totally appreciate that. But it got me thinking that at this point, the songs were starting to run together for me a little bit. And then I'm like, okay, well, isn't there an argument to be made that you want it to be identifiably Dirty Honey? And like, any artist ostensibly wants their shit to be identifiably them. But then I thought about Japanese Breakfast and Dow and the Get Down, Stay Down too, where they were really good at song by song whipping a bunch of different production elements out there and trying different things, but it all sounded like it belonged on the same album and was very recognizably Japanese Breakfast or Tao Win. So I like that creative approach to things, and this song didn't really do that. So again, I'll say it again, not bad, not for me.
That's fair. And that's totally fair, because I will say the variety on this album is lacking, but I think it goes back to like, this is a style of music that I have always loved since I was a little boy. I have always loved classic rock and ripping guitar solos and just like louder than life rock star lyrics. You know what I mean? It's just like those have always been my kind of thing. You know, among a lot of other types of music, like this type of music has always been very near and dear to my heart. And it's just like, they hit everything that I'm expecting them to on that. And I think that's why I enjoyed it so much, because I had all these expectations. Once I heard that first song, California Dreamin', I was like, okay, they're this kind of band. Like, and then every single song delivered exactly what I wanted it to. And while it's not the most groundbreaking album, and I'm certainly not going to put it up in my best of the year lists or anything, it delivered exactly what I wanted it to. And Gypsy was, I mean, exactly what I wanted it to be. The guitar work, the guitar solos, it just hits every single note that I needed it to.
Fuck yeah. I mean, more fucking power to you. I genuinely wish that I'd had a stronger reaction, because I didn't like fly out of my seat at Sudan Archives, but I enjoyed it quite a bit and I was very interested in it. And I got like mildly annoyed a few times during this one, which is, not a great way to feel. You feel like a dick, especially because someone suggested it. I'm pretty sure your cousin suggested Whiskey Myers too, and I was like kind of hard on that one. So
yeah,
you just keep coming back for punishment, cousin. Just keep coming back.
Well, I think it's I don't know. Maybe it's because we had similar upbringings that we ended up liking similar music. Maybe that's the deal here. But as far as I'm concerned, Patrick, keep them coming. And we have the last one, Another Last Time. And this is actually the last song on the album and the last one that we chose from the album. And this was one of your picks.
This is one of my picks. I don't just like this song for the album. I think it's a really fucking solid, interesting, creative song while staying true to everything that they clearly love to do with their music. It still fits perfectly within that loud-ass rock and roll aesthetic, but they pulled back a little bit. It's a little more slowed down. It's a little more methodical. We compensate with that great guitar crunch. We're adding more keys at this point that are on more side of the organ. It's more open-hearted. It's got great fill-in from those female harmonies. This is the most interesting the vocals are. He plays with dynamics instead of going full out. And if this whole album were like this, I would have enthusiastically gone out and bought the vinyl. The lyrics are even an improvement in this. This is like truly saving the best for last. This is like, I wrote down, this is Yellow Ledbetter meets The Wait meets She Talks to Angels. I hear all three of those things in there very clearly, and it's all the parts of those songs that I like. This had pathos, two people that cannot quit each other. It's another last time. Here we are again going, oh, I'll never see you again. Cut to 6 months or 6 years later. It's a universal message. They did a really, really, really good job at making this one interesting and making it rock.
Yes, I do think the two bookend songs on this album were probably the best ones that they did. As far as kind of making it a little different than the rest, because the middle of the album was all the same. It was just like, we're gonna put some hard rock right up your butt, and you're gonna like it. And that was what they did. And I really, really liked. Another Last Time was going to be my pick. If you hadn't picked it, I would have absolutely picked this one. I think the line for me, she's got me like addiction, but won't be my fix. It's probably the most in-depth lyric that they had on the whole album. Because it was to the point. You understand exactly what he means, but it was still, I don't know, had more emotion to it than anything else on the album did. And I think that's the benefit of this one. And hopefully, because this was their debut album, hopefully that this is more an indication of things to come in the future with them. Because I think if they tap into what they did for this song, they could have a very, very successful career. They could have a career like the Black Crowes did. They could be that level band, because musically, sonically, they're just as good. I mean, they're tight. Like the talent is there clearly. I think what they need to do is find themselves a little bit and not necessarily fall back on that verse, pre-chorus, chorus structure, and then chorus twice on the way out kind of thing that they did on like 6 songs in a row on this album. And while I enjoyed that, your criticism of it are valid. And I think this song, they break away from that enough where if they tap into this more, they're going to be extremely successful. They could end up being the band that sells out stadiums and stuff, because this sound is built for that. They're certainly big enough sonically to fill a stadium. And I think if they have more songs like this, they can do it.
When people piss their pants over Greta Van Fleet, and it's like, imagine a band that does what Greta Van Fleet is trying to do better. Like, I fucking hate Greta Van Fleet now. I pulled a heel turn on them at one point. It was after Battle at the Garden Gate, or whatever the fucking abortion is that they just released. I listened to that and got fucking actively mad, and it retroactively ruined a lot of their music that I actually did like before. The only song that wasn't ruined for me was their cover of Meat on the Ledge. And Another Last Time reminds me, it has a lot of that, like the bombast that's in that DNA. If Greta Van Fleet moved in that direction, obviously not doing covers, but like bringing to songs what they brought to that cover, I'd like them a whole lot more. But this whole like, the Dragon of Dannemora, yeah, just fuck off. Fuck off with that shit. It's cosplay bullshit done by fucking children. Whereas I think Dirty Honey has a much clearer sense of what's going to sell, what they love to do, and where they can go with it. So I agree. I hope they move further in this direction and then like keep it here. This is the pocket for them. Like you said, this is Black Crowes level. Like She Talks to Angels. I hear it in the song. Hopefully they don't go the route of the Black Crowes and end up fucking hating each other and being miserable bastards. But it's that same level of appeal. I love the Black Crowes. So I would love to see them lock into that.
Yeah, and I think they could do it. And I think I'm going to say stream it on this one. I'm interested to see what your recommendation on it's going to be.
I am also gonna say stream it. Give it a fair shot. I gave it a fair shake. I listened to it a bunch, and I have nothing against these guys. I wish them all the success. I want to see what they do next. So this one just didn't really land for me. Objectively good, subjectively not my thing. Definitely check it out.
Yeah, I think if they, like we were saying, if they stick to Another Last Time in that aesthetic, in that kind of mode of writing songs, they're going to be very successful. I think they're going to be probably pretty successful regardless, but I think they're going to be more critically acclaimed and kind of have more staying power if they stick with Another Last Time in that style. So 2 stream it's on both albums.
Yeah.
That's pretty good.
It's pretty good.
That's pretty good.
That's a good batting average.
Yeah, I'd say so. Sudan Archives, recommended by Brandon. Go ahead and listen to it. Dirty Honey, recommended by Patrick. Go ahead and listen to that one as well, folks. I think that's going to do it for us. So I think we'll just take care of our little housekeeping items here, unless you have some other burning issues that you need to address on the pod.
Oh, I have some burning issues I need to address, but not until after we're done recording.
Oh, well, they make cream for that.
Well, they make them in flushable wipes now, so lucky me.
Well, by the time that you hear this on Monday, I will be 34 years old. There will also be another singles video for you to watch. So make sure, if you haven't gone and checked that out, even if you have, go search hashtag Out on That Line on YouTube. Subscribe if you haven't, and check out our newest singles video. You'll find all the rest of them there. I think we're up to, what, 25 on there now?
Mine is going to be 24 because I got all the evens.
Yeah, so up to 24 episodes on that. So we've been doing it a while. I'd say we're getting pretty good at it. So check them out. You'll also find all of these episodes on there. If you're not already listening on YouTube, and that is your preferred media consumption site, you'll find all of our podcast episodes on there, as well as those singles videos. So check it out. You'll find us on Twitter @OutOnThatLine1, on Instagram @OutOnThatLine. You could even send us an email, outonthatline@gmail.com. If you have an album recommendation, you just heard us do 2. You'll even get yourself a shout out on the pod. So if you like an album, if you hate an album, whatever you feel about an album, if you think we should talk about it on the pod, you let us know and we will. And I think that's all I've got. Is there anything else that you have, Alex?
Bye.
Until next time.